Hi there, Victor Pross speaking to you, anarchist artist. Okay, today I'd like to talk about a conversation that anarchist philosopher Stefan Molyneux had with Laurette Lynn, Unplugged Mom, and as she's pegged herself, Unplugged Mom. The thing about Unplugged Mom, or Laurette, is that she is quite a remarkable woman, I must say, and it was an extremely enjoyable conversation. I do invite you to listen to the interview that Stefan had. He had part 1 and part 2, and it was more or less a conversation than an interview, actually. But the amazing thing about Laurette was that she, I don't believe that she has any kind of like formal or even informal background in academia and study of philosophy. Certainly anarchism is an entirely new philosophy to her. New in the sense that she's not too familiar with it. She might have heard a few things about it. I'm not sure where she's at all. Maybe like anarchism to her means random chaos, because even to a guy like Christopher Green, who does have considerable education, is just completely lost on the whole school of thought. So I don't know where she's at with that. But certainly I know that she's not too well versed in it whatsoever. However, the thing that is quite remarkable, though, when it comes to her, is her not so much of any kind of like her being steeped in formal academia and philosophical studies, explicit philosophical studies, by doing a great deal of reading and whatever other forms of erudition. She has a common sense kind of rationality, an empirically based, organic, common sense rationality about her, in that she decided to homeschool her children for a very rational reason, I think. I mean, I know there's a lot of homeschoolers who are religious primarily, and they homeschool for the reasons because they don't want their children to be subjugated to what they consider to be a rampant secularism, which they consider to be exemplified in state compulsory public schooling, as if secularism was the issue and was the problem, as opposed to the brain-rotting corrosion that churn them out, dime a dozen, brick in the wall, illiterates who can't fill out a job application, kind of public schooling effects that is known for this type of quote-unquote education. No, she could see that to the optimizing her children's moral and intellectual development, that state schooling was detrimental. And so she decided, out of the great love that she has for her children, I imagine, that she is not going to subject them to that kind of corrosive, toxic atmosphere. Whereas with the religionists who homeschool, it's primarily a religious reason. They want to get the superstition in there themselves, and they don't feel that their public tax dollars are doing a sufficient job in doing that, regardless of the issues of prayer in school. So what she had like a very interesting concern and inquiry when it came to the whole idea of a stateless anarchistic society, and that being, would this be something that's collectivistic? I could see that there's a strong, independent thinking woman there who has a great deal of respect for individual autonomy, individual efficaciousness, and individuality, basically, versus any kind of like mindless groupthink collectivism. And she was thinking that, well, if we were to have an anarchistic society, wouldn't that mean that everybody would have to be on the same page, and thereby, kind of like stripping away their individuality, because they would all be collectivistic in this anarchistic commune, where you do have everybody on the same page, not too aggressive against one another. And I thought that that's a very interesting concern, and it's really important, I think, to emphasize the fact that any social change that humanity's ever gone through, it's not a matter of everybody being on the same page and some kind of like philosophic homogeny, where you have everybody walking around and greeting one another in some mechanical way, and hi, like it was like some Christian commune. Hi, brother, Jesus be with you. Thank you, Jesus be with you. You know, in an anarchist society would be, you know, long live freedom, brother. Long live freedom, brother. Yes. And then everybody's wandering around talking about what a despicable thing the state was, right? So, you know, so that isn't the case at all. Like any kind of large-scale social movements, whether it's been, you know, the fading away of what was considered, what was called the Middle Ages into the age of Enlightenment and the Renaissance, it was just a predominant philosophical trend that was taking shape. And it didn't mean that there was no religious people, you know, it didn't mean that there was no clashing, divergent ideologies or systems of thought, and there was, it wasn't a case of everybody was on the same page. But it was just that what can mark the Middle Ages, say from the Age of Enlightenment and the Renaissance, was the predominant spirit of the age that was implicit in the age. A greater respect for science, an enhancement of the arts, from the flat one-dimensional paintings that was characteristic of the Middle Ages, because they considered the world, the earth, to be you know, one-dimensional and flat and inferior to the world to come. And so that's why, like, the art was predominantly in the Middle Ages something that would glorified the state and the supernatural, whereas in the Renaissance it was more earth-oriented. And you still had specks of you know, the clashing world of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance in the art of Michelangelo, where you do see Adam sprawled out, reaching out to God. You had that religiosity there, but it was kind of like a throwback to the Greek tradition, where that was much more scientifically oriented before the age of Christendom, where nudity wasn't scorned and churned away from in some kind of puritanical sense, because you had Adam sprawled out, full blast, motherfucking naked. Okay, and this adorned a lot of Michelangelo's art. So, like, you know, I'm just trying to emphasize the fact here that it's not something that the idea of a stateless society is something that I wouldn't say is that's inevitable, but humanity can reach that pinnacle absolutely, where the state just simply fades away as an anachronism and as passé and as ridiculous and an embarrassment chapter, a long chapter in man's history, and where the challenges of a free society and all the challenges of living among our fellow human beings and having order and civility and having optimal living standards and so forth, and settling disputes and resolutions and allocation of resources and etc. This is the challenge that would still be there. It would not be some kind of like kumbaya, extending the olive branch for our neighbor, everybody sitting around a loincloths in the Garden of Eden, where conflict and you know, even violent crimes would not be completely eradicated. So that's not the case at all. You see, what it's only being said there is that you certainly, the challenges that humans that face is certainly not solved by having a monolithic leviathan that has a monopoly on the use of force. Is not some kind of like alternative means or competitive way of organizing society. And in fact, it just escalates and exacerbates the problem of human conflict. It doesn't resolve it. But that's not to say that in an anarchistic, stateless society that all human challenges and problems all of a sudden fade away, where we all have magical fairy dust on our human nature and there's no conflict whatsoever. It just that means that a concentration of power, of violent monopoly power, would not be at the very epicenter of society, which would immediately solve a lot of problems right then and there, and it would elevate and escalate humanity to a new plateau that has a great deal of more promise than it formerly has ever had before. That much I can say absolutely sure. But this idea of like a conflict-free utopia, of course that's a ridiculous idea, and it's not something that we should aspire to and say and write off anarchism or a stateless society as not being the perfect system, because those problems would still be there. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, it's just like saying that with the abolition of plantation slavery, we have the problem now is what about the cotton industry? Well, who gives a fuck about the cotton industry? It will work itself out. The point is that slavery is immoral. It's evil. That's all. That's all you have to know. That's all. All these other things will work themselves out. So that's just a quick little snippet. I'd like to talk a little bit more about this with Stefan's conversation with Unplugged Mom, and just consider this kind of like a preamble. Victor Pross, anarchist artist, signing out. Pop goes the culture.